Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another Veema webinar, Prioritising Wellbeing in School, with our associate and author speaker, Nina Jackson. Really looking forward to today's session. So I just wanted to get started, introduce Nina about our webinar today, and just to let you know that if you have any questions, then please do send those questions to us on info@veema.co.uk. We also have a wellbeing section on our website at our research corner. So do check out our free CPD library on the website, and what you will also find on the CPD library, Nina's recent paper, Wellbeing in Education. So please do download this information and share it across to your colleagues. I am not going to speak for very long because I know Nina has lots of things that she wants to address this afternoon. And I know that you've probably got your pens and papers and you're going to be writing things down. And do let us know how you find the webinar. Do get in touch with us and give us some information about how you've actually used some of the things that Nina is about to talk about. So enough from me. I'm going to pass you straight over to Nina. Enjoy, everyone, and we look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Costa, and wherever you are in the world, good evening, good afternoon. I'm calling you all today from sunny Wales in the UK, and it's very, very hot. So yes, I think it's about time that we embark on our prioritising wellbeing in schools. And you know why? Because everyone is most definitely worth it. If you do happen to be on Twitter, can I ask you please not only to follow Veema Education, obviously, who I'm delighted to be working with as an associate, but my own Twitter account is Music Mind. And between Veema and myself, we will be here to support you and to guide you into well-being as much as we can. So welcome to the session. I know I'm wearing my happy smile this afternoon, only to know that obviously, even though I can't actually see you all on screen, that maybe today what we're doing is that we are reaching out globally to make well-being in schools a real priority. So it's me wearing my happy smile, which I do most of the time, and particularly when I'm working with the students, obviously, and when some of my teachers are maybe not quite looking themselves. But I'd like to take you on just a little bit of a journey before we begin with some amazing tools and strategies that you can use in your schools. I'm a mental health, an international mental health ambassador, and as you know, I'm Nina Jackson, but I love to be a ninja, and I love to move in mysterious ways. And why do I do that? It's because I lost my own life quite a considerable amount of years to some very difficult mental and emotional health issues. I'm a suicide survivor. I was a self-harmer, and obviously experiencing PTSD as well. But I've been created by mental and emotional health to be the person that I am today. I do not want any teacher or any student to experience what I experienced. We all experience really difficult days. Of course we do. You know, those dark, black days, or as I like to call them sometimes, wet lettuce days, just because that fits my agenda. But my scars and my issues are what have made me today. I'm very grateful, very grateful to have the opportunity to live my life as happily as I can. But we all need to remember that we all have to ride the waves of emotional well-being, because if you don't experience the lows in life, you're never really going to experience how brilliant that the high or happy moments are. So let's go on to our mission and have a look at what today is all about. I'd like to share with you an overview and the understanding of what the true meaning of well-being is for our learners. Also for you to be able to know your own well-being as a teacher, because if you're not in a good place, then you're not going to be able to deliver the best teaching and learning experience for your students. And what I'd like you to take away with you today is for you to start thinking about how you can plan well-being into your school, what it might look like, and what it might feel like particularly. So let's have a look at what do we mean by well-being for our learners. Now, well-being for our learners has to be everything from a really good understanding of themselves, asking the question of who am I and what are my magical ingredients, making sure that our students feel really comfortable in their learning environments as well, with regards to knowledge, cognition, examination, and so forth. So for me, the 5 core values that every school needs to have in its philosophy, in its vision, and in its transportation through pedagogy and practice has to be the 5 things of everybody, including students, teachers, head teachers, need to feel happy. Everybody needs to be as healthy as they can be, need to feel safe. And when I mean feeling safe, safe in the learning environment, safe on a playground, where children will interact with each other and young people, safe in your staff room, where you meet colleagues and colleagues maybe are not criticising you for, oh, you've always got a really good idea, haven't you? Yes, because I'm a forward thinker and I'd love to share it with you. And also as well for people to feel secure in their working environment, in their home environment, and in their life environment. But more than anything in schools, I do feel that everybody, as part of the 5, feed the heart to feed the brain, it has to be about being valued as an individual and as a human being. So if you embrace the 5 core well-being values into prioritising well-being in your school, happy, healthy, safe, secure, and valued, then you are on to the beginning of an amazing journey of planning what that might look like and feel like for you in your particular educational setting. And you have to take that into consideration, obviously, depending where your school setting is, the culture, the community, the aspirations of everybody, and taking everybody's needs into account. So let's have a look at what we mean by prioritising the well-being and overall being healthy in oneself within learning. There are a number of risk factors that we know of with regards to child development and mental health. Some of these risk factors actually come from history of family difficulties. And you will see on the screen right now that what I'd like to share with you particularly are what are those risk factors that you may need to take into consideration when looking at the priority of well-being in your school in relation to what the protective factors are. And in many ways, those protective factors are there for you to consider when thinking about planning what you're going to do in your school. So let's take, for example, the third one of the risk factors, the limited experience of social interaction. This may not be necessarily because the child doesn't have any friends, or maybe a member of staff doesn't have many friends, but it also could be from the child's perspective that they have a special education need and disability, or in particular, if they've got something diagnosable like, high functioning Asperger's, where communication and social interaction can be very difficult. So when you are creating your school wellbeing plan, it's very important that you take into consideration those special education needs of some of the most magical pupils that you have as well. So I would like to also draw your attention to the inconsistent caregiving. Now, in some schools, we don't always see care, love, and heartfulness at the centre of education. And I would like to see that as a mission in your school. And the protective factors for that would be good social and emotional skills. However, what we can do is to look at resilience and growth mindset in partnership with that too. So let's have a think about what we mean by that. If some teachers are perpetually giving work to students and not giving supportive feedback through feed the heart to feed the brain, as in, wow, I'm absolutely delighted with that effort that you put in there. Your personal concentration was amazing. Look at the progress that you have done since you've come into the lesson to where you are now. Even though that student's work, excuse me, may not actually be as high academically as somebody else, feeding somebody with emotional praise can be absolutely wonderful. So you need to build that in most seriously as part of your protective factors when prioritising the well-being. We do know from research as well that some aspects of mental and emotional health are hereditary. Okay, that parents may have difficulties. That the main hereditary ones are bipolar, schizophrenia, and clinical depression. So again, where you've got this slide which shows you the risk factors, you see that on the right-hand side, what I've been able to share with you is that massive protective factor. If we look at those keywords there, the supporting, caring, and nurturing school, which allows children and young people to grow physically, emotionally, and cognitively. I mean, almost in itself, that is a vision statement for prioritising well-being in your schools. But most importantly, imagine marrying that with the 5 core values that I shared with you earlier for everybody to feel happy, healthy, safe, secure, and valued. Then what you have there is the beginning of a rather amazing plan, which is a vision that you can build on from that. And I hope that I can give you now, further on into the session, some more ideas of what you can do. And we're not going to be able to answer everybody's questions and to look at how to create the most amazing well-being and emotionally secure school today. But what we can do is we can begin this conversation. We can begin this journey together. And as you know, Veema quite brilliantly has loads of opportunities for you to get involved with a well-being, whether it be through the CPD journey or through the webinars. So first of all, let's take into consideration that, you know, we are all different, but we are all the same. We are all human beings, but our own magical ingredients are what make us. And often we find that with regards to well-being and mental and emotional health, the biggest issue we are faced with is when young people, children, and sometimes ourselves as well as teachers and practitioners, there's a reason behind why we behave in the way that we behave. Sometimes we just don't have the language, or we don't know how to say to somebody, I'm just not myself today. I feel absolutely dreadful. And I'm sure there will be days when you will just feel not just exhausted, not just physically exhausted, but emotionally and cognitively exhausted as well. And sometimes, you know, you just can't get your words out, can you? You can't explain why it is that you're feeling like you're feeling, but you know it's because you're physically exhausted, emotionally exhausted, and cognitively exhausted. But when human beings, children in particular, and young people, when they're grappling with experiences and they're not quite sure, why is it I'm feeling like this? What they may tend to do is to go 2 ways. They'll either display very, very challenging behaviour, so it demands your attention. And by demanding your attention, of course, what they're saying to you is, I'm going to be really, really, really bad to you, and I'm going to call you everything under the sun. I'm going to be really nasty to you. I'm just going to be really, really horrible because I know that you are the person that's going to rescue me from the trauma that's going on in my head and in my heart. And you see, sometimes when young children and young people do this journey of bad behavior or difficult and challenging behavior, what they're actually doing is they're crying out for help, because they don't have the words, they certainly don't have the language, the capability, or the experience to say to you, I'm being abused, I'm being bullied, I feel dreadful about my body, I feel depressed, I've been cutting myself, I've been drinking dreadful, dreadful bleach, or whatever it is on that journey of self-harm. But by displaying that bad behaviour, what they're doing is they're communicating to you that the attention, the attention, the attention I need, because my world is just dreadful, and it's only you that can come and help me. And in many ways, that dreadful behaviour is actually some of the most respectful behaviour that some children can give to you, because they know they love you, they respect you, and know that you're going to help them. So be aware of that type of behaviour, and also that other type of behaviour where a child or a young person suddenly goes from being a really, really effervescent, really joyful individual, and the whole body language changes, and they suddenly go into themselves, and they're very quiet, and they lose the sparkle in their eyes, and the world becomes very difficult to cope with. They may not speak to you. They may choose to become selective mutes because they really can't tell you what's wrong. So they will use the whole aspect of the internalization of the body language. This, of course, tells us that there's an unmet need. And basically, these children and young people are in emotional or physical discomfort. And this could be possibly from some, abuse elsewhere, online abuse, bullying, maybe grief, maybe actually physically being abused at home. Let's hope that's not the case. But, unfortunately, this is reality. They may even be self-harmers too. And that's something that possibly we'll be looking at a future date, as to why we as human beings self-harm and have the need to do that, and look into the chemical imbalance that we have in the brain. So when there are difficulties, there are no words. I'd like to pose you a little challenge. And my challenge to you is this. Where you may notice that children or young people in your school are going through difficulties, maybe get them to create like a password or a special word, so that if they say that or write that down and share that with you, that's their special word of saying, my world's not okay. I love to use the term, today's like a wet lettuce. It doesn't mean that I'm severely depressed. It just means that today I'm feeling just a little bit down in the dumps. But sometimes where children may not be able to have that understanding of how to explain to you, creating a keyword would be brilliant. Or maybe even creating sets of pictures or diagrams that they can actually show you as well. And hopefully in some other webinars we'll be running, we'll be able to share with you and show you how you can create an environment where a student can communicate with you where no words are needed at all. But this is just a starting point for you to think about, a special keyword or a special password. I was working with a group of teachers recently, and one of the teachers said, I think I'd like my special word to be blowfish. So she said, if I ever said the word blowfish in the house or in the staff room, that somebody would just know that my world isn't particularly okay. And then when I asked her why the word blowfish, she said because she thought it was a very ugly fish, and it looked really traumatized. So that was something that she could connect with, and something that she now uses frequently at home and in her place of work as well. So think about sometimes where there are no words, how would you get your students to maybe to create a very special password to share with you so that there are difficulties? Going back to, so this can keep them happy, healthy, safe, secure, and valued as an individual. So, you know, it's okay to not feel okay or be okay. And all of these things here that you see on the screen with you right now are things that we should be talking openly and honestly about in our schools. These should be part of your well-being plan so that you can address stress. And of course, stress is an external factor, and stress causes us anxiety. But you know what? We, as human beings, we make our own anxiety in our heads and in our hearts. And by creating that anxiety, if we don't know why or how it is that we've become anxious, then we actually cannot help ourselves. So we have to go back to the whole platform of, do I really know me as a human being? So that's something that I'd like you to think about with regards to your schools as well. Ask your staff, ask your students, either through discussion or a questionnaire, who am I? Not the fact that I'm Nina Jackson and I'm 53 and I'm loving life, and I really strongly believe that every single school should have well-being at the core of everything. But the fact that I'm Nina Jackson, I'm an effervescent person sometimes. I become emotionally scarred and I show those scars at other times. I'm a suicide survivor. And when I take those ingredients, I then unravel those as well. So I think about, well, you know, what is it that's part of me? What are my magical ingredients? And really, who am I and how am I put together? And being able to understand the conscious self and why it is sometimes that the subconscious self has battles with the conscious self. We need to talk openly about trauma. Trauma is a dreadful, dreadful experience, and it can have a lifetime of effects on you. What do we mean by trauma? It could be a shock from a car accident. It could be trauma from seeing a death. So all of these things that we're trying to obviously look at in an hour session on a webinar, they're massive in themselves. But I hope that you look at them and think, you know, as a school, we can put these into our language. We can say that it's okay to not be okay if you're lonely. How would you support a child who's lonely? How would you support a colleague who feels lonely and may be alone too? Phobias. Now, we tend to forget with regards to mental and emotional health that there are 1 in 4 people, not just with a diagnosed mental health issue, but there are 1 in 4 people who have some serious, serious phobias. I've come across recently quite a lot of people who've got phobias with regards to balloons, but not necessarily the texture of rubber or latex. So that has to be part of your school as well. And actually, when you research and find out the names of some of these phobias and what they actually mean, that in itself is an amazing experience and a task for you and your students to do. All of us in our lives will experience grief. All of us in our lives will experience bereavement. And even though we know that particularly members of our families or friends will one day move on from this world, and that they will die, that they will pass on. We know it's going to happen. Sometimes, do we think that we are prepared? No. Trust me, nothing prepares you for grief. Nothing prepares you for bereavement. In my own book of Teaching, Learning and Sherbet Lemons, there's a chapter there specifically called Death of a Parent. And in there are some, there are long suggestions of what you can do to be able to deal with grief. And maybe dealing is not the right word, but for you to take small steps and know that at times it's going to hit you and be really, really bad. Let's please make sure that relationships form the core of everything with regards to well-being in our schools. Really positive, really happy, realistic, and also challenging relationships as well. I don't mean challenging the relationships of people, but that sometimes it is okay to be really honest and set high expectations, but it's the use of the language. And also as well, maybe consider why it is that some of your children are extremely tired, or they have a different colour on their faces because maybe they have sleep issues. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they have been gaming all night, even though some of them will be. However, what happens is a lot of young people, when they're going through the stress of tests and exams and pressure, you know, the external stress with the anxiety, they will begin to have some sleep issues. So it's okay to not feel or be okay, especially with some of these areas. And I'd like to see all schools actually using this language frequently. What isn't on there, obviously, is suicide. What isn't on there are other things like body dysmorphia, etc. However, let's move on. So whether or not you tell somebody that I'm not okay, I would like us to begin this journey together. As I mentioned to you earlier, if you don't look after yourself as a teacher, practitioner, and human being, then you cannot support or be there for others. I would ask you just to be sometimes just a little bit selfish to others, because I want you to be kind to yourself first. Be kind to yourself first and then to others. And as difficult that even sounds to me, I think sometimes we're not good at looking after ourselves, but we have to be in the type of environment that we're working in schools, in the fact that if we don't get our well-being right ourselves, and that we maybe tell each other that, oh my gosh, you know, I'm really not coping very well today. I've got all this marking to do. I'm losing sleep. And actually, sometimes it's right what they say, a problem shared is a problem halved. So on the bad days, I want you first and foremost to be kind to yourself. So by being kind to yourself, this is where we get it right for you, okay? So that you can be confident individuals, successful learners, responsible citizens, and effective contributors to the education profession. And through all of these aspects of getting it right for you, I want you to feel included. I want you to feel safe in your learning environment. And what do I mean by that? I mean that during staff meetings, that you have an open session where you don't feel that you can't say that the pressures of feedback, marking, exams and tests are difficult, that you can say it to people, because once there's one voice saying, I'm really struggling with this, you'll find that others will follow too. So I want us, as part of the prioritising wellbeing in our schools, to make sure that we get it right for you first, so that you are nurtured, you are given effective and really quite brilliant CPD actually, to be able to help you to address some of the difficulties of the young people. And of course, Veema are going to share this presentation with you. And at any point, obviously, you can get in touch with us and we can discuss some of these aspects more. But let's look at the whole school approach. Now, this is where I believe that the whole school approach in prioritising the wellbeing has to come from the leadership and the management. The leadership and management really need to champion this, champion it through assemblies, see it across the school, you know, have a posters up which say, if you don't feel okay today, then tell somebody or show somebody that you have an ethos and a philosophy that supports individuality, that celebrates individuality, that talks about depression and what bad days and dark days feel like, that really discuss openly, well, what is self-harming? Why do some people do it? Why do some hide it? And why do some want to show it? And there's a complex, um, you know, there's a complex chemical issue as to why some of us, me included in the past, have been quite serious self-harmers. And I'm not going to share that with you now. That's for another whole discussion. But you need to be able to see and feel this whole well-being everywhere across the school. From the moment a parent steps into the school, into reception, it needs to say, we value everybody in the school as the unique human being that they are. We value the learning needs, the emotional needs of every single person, from student to teacher to leaders to governors, and to you, of course, the parents. Which comes on to looking at the curriculum. And the curriculum needs to have the promotion of resilience and the interweaving of social and emotional learning within that curriculum. Don't always believe that a great well-being school is one that has mental and emotional health as part of their PSE program. No, a great school where well-being is a priority is interwoven into lessons. For example, oh, hi, good morning, how are you? Wow, look at you, you've had a lovely new haircut. Wow, that looks fantastic. What a difference, it's really brightened your face. Or maybe the child who's just a little bit late. Oh gosh, okay, that's late to the third time. Maybe what we could do is we could have a chat about this later on, not sort of embarrass them there and then at that particular time. But even within the curriculum, within topics, within exams and tests, is use that supportive emotional language so that the self-esteem and confidence of an individual is really at a high point. Can I ask you please to value the voices, the needs, and what the young people think in your schools? Enabling a student voice to influence the decisions is absolutely paramount. Get clear, concise reports back from your students. Get clear, concise reports back from your staff, because staff development is absolutely crucial. No teacher training course, okay, enables you to become a well-being, mental or emotional health professional who's like at the top of their game. Unless you've done a qualification, it's not currently part and parcel of that initial teacher training. Even though I do think that now, because we've got a massive crisis in our schools worldwide, that needs to be embedded into it. But really good, solid, supportive CPD is absolutely essential to support your well-being, as well as giving you the amazing tools that you need to not just be the teacher who imparts knowledge, understanding, skills and strategies, but have empathy and understanding and brilliant relationship with students. I'd like you also, in prioritising the well-being in your school, to really think about how do you identify the needs of students? Do you categorise them into, oh, this one has anxiety, this one has depression, this one has got body dysmorphia? I'm going to say to you, no, do not put them into categories, because every single human being can have what we call transfer layers of well-being. So somebody may be going through periods of depression because of anxiety, of body dysmorphia, of trauma. And so this is when you look at what the individual needs of that child or young person is. The impact and intervention has to be unique for that individual. Even though you'll have strategies and ideas of what to do to help people with anxiety, whether it's good breathing techniques, whether it's mindfulness, whether it's the effective use of music, and so on, then being able to identify the needs and monitor impacts and interventions is crucial. Never forget your most supportive people for the school, your parents and your carers. Now, whether you're a parent yourself or you often see parents who come to the school and they want all the answers. I don't know what to do with my child. They're locking themselves in their bedroom. They're crying all the time. So what the parents are actually doing is that they are reaching out to you. Remember, behind those behaviours, very much like the young people or children are. So I'm going to say to you, build an effective partnership with your parents and carers too. And make sure that you target and support appropriate referrals. Make sure that the ethos and environment is there. Make sure that your leadership and management team, they keep revisiting the whole prioritization of well-being in schools. So this will begin with, look at your environment. Look at your staff so that they can be emotionally healthy. Make sure that inclusion is at the heart of everything. Everybody's learning needs and emotional needs are there 100%. Look at the use of effective language through the curriculum and emotional literacy. Take on board whether or not you're a school that will want to use mindfulness, looking at the effective use of music for well-being, as I did recently in Wellington College, Shanghai, and possibly it not just having a well-being week, but having key things every day built into school. There's a school I work with in West Wales, and they have a chime, and that when that chime rings, the whole school has 2 minutes of private individual reflection time. Now, 2 minutes of quiet, private reflection time can really ignite the body both physically and mentally. Go and look at outdoor learning as much as you can. Bring the outdoors indoors and take the indoors outdoors, because nature, the sun, vitamin D is all part of being healthy and emotionally strong. Give your pupils a voice, help them lead the way with regards to well-being. And most of all, please develop in your school, when we look at well-being, the art of amazing listening. The art of listening to somebody else, not interrupting, letting them tell you why it is that they're feeling like they're feeling. When it's the right time, you will know what to say, whether it would be, thanks for sharing what you've just shared with me. Should we sit and talk like this again? Or whatever, because the art of listening for well-being is something really particular I'm very, very passionate about, and sometimes we just don't get it right. And please, please bring the community and the parent in to be part of the well-being in your school. Develop those respectful relationships, that sense of belonging and inclusion. Let's get the ethos and philosophy in everything that we do. Every day is a learning day, and every day is about you the teacher and the student. Going back to what I said earlier, learn to know who you are, the who am I question, rather than just statistically putting down who you are, but unravel what your magical ingredients really are. If one of us is brave enough to stand up and say, I'm a survivor, I've suffered with X, Y, and Z, you'll find that others will follow. Because let's be honest, discussing mental and emotional health issues and well-being can be really, really traumatic and difficult for some people. Even saying the word depression, even mentioning suicidal thoughts, even the trauma of, oh my gosh, my child is self-harming, what do I do? These are part and parcels of things that maybe we don't feel that we're trained for as human beings, but ultimately you are. And the first thing that you can do is just to be you. Listen, take time to look and observe. Look and observe for any changes, and look and observe and understand and know yourself too, because then we can stand together and develop emotional well-being, the priority of great learning through an understanding of oneself in every single school globally. Please use the whole philosophy of unconditional positive regard. And there's a school in Leeds, Springwell, with an amazing head teacher, Dave Whitaker, who transforms the lives of young people through unconditional positive regard. And it doesn't matter if you've had a bad day with somebody, okay, always find in your heart that forgiveness is a really good thing. And of course, sometimes you just need to reach out and show a little care. And if you don't know where this amazing picture has come from, then obviously it's from Inside Out and it's fantastic. So thank you for joining Veema Education webinar training on prioritising wellbeing in schools. I'm Nina Jackson. I'm at Music Mind. Can I thank you, diolch in Welsh, and wherever you are in the world, please look after yourselves first before you can look after each other. Goodbye everybody, and hope to join in with you at another time.